Oh, baby, good morning this morning. It is good to be Trae Young. That's right. It is good to be the diminutive guard from Oklahoma who absolutely put on a show last night. 16 in the fourth, a three from about here to you, wherever you are, to win the game in the Garden against the Celtics. 38 points total. Trae Young has 60 points in the fourth quarter. Trae Young, sensational. I got a text from our friend Bobby Rathburn, who is the voice, the God voice of the Atlanta Hawks, and he's like, holy hell, are the playoffs good? And holy hell, were they good last night? Golly, Trae Young got her done. I'm not surprised. Those of you that live in Indianapolis, we know Paul George's act. So guess what? Paul George didn't show. He's hurt. He's hurt. Kawhi Leonard, he's hurt. Kawhi Leonard, my backside. Kawhi Leonard doesn't play. He just doesn't play. Like Paul George had a horrific injury a few years ago, so maybe, just maybe, you can give him an excuse in terms of injury. Paul George doesn't play when he's playing. He's the biggest choke there is, but those two guys teamed up on the Clippers, and last thing I watched the Clippers last night against the Suns. I didn't see no Paul George. I didn't see no Kawhi Leonard. Kawhi Leonard never plays. And I got to tell you, he's the biggest waste of money for a, quote, superstar, maybe in the history of the NBA. Took an entire year off. This year he didn't play. Didn't play in the playoffs. I mean, what good is having Kawhi Leonard? I understand he's dealing with a horrific situation with a sister who's going to jail forever without parole for murder. I mean, what the hell is that? But Kawhi Leonard, you got to get off your backside and go play. Okay, you're a little dinged up. Seems to me like Kawhi Leonard is one of those guys that has to be perfect to play. Shut up and go play. Paul George, Kawhi Leonard, what a colossal failure. The Suns took him out. They actually made deals. They added Eric Gordon and others to try to make a run. But, of course, in the NBA, when your stars don't play, you have no chance to win, period. Look, if Trae Young didn't play, you got no chance. DeJounte Murray, who averages 20 for the Hawks, he didn't play. But Trae Young just went stupid. Down 13, he just went out of his mind crazy. And next thing you know, they got the win. And Steve Ballmer, I'm jumping around here, the owner of the Clippers, lost his mind last night. And it was absolutely glorious. You knew it was coming. I hope you live bet it. Down early, the Timberwolves were no way, shape, or form going to beat the Nuggets. I was looking at it all night, and I couldn't get it low enough. The Denver Nuggets were down. They were down 10 or so early, and next thing you know, you knew they were going to win. You wanted to get them on the money line. We wanted to do some things. We couldn't get it done, so we took them in a parlay with the Suns, and we ended up making plus money. You just got to look at these things, right? You just got to look, and you got to see what's available to you. But the NBA playoffs are fantastic. All right. I'm going to show you a clip from our president. This is our president. He is announcing that he is returning for re-election. Even though 70% allegedly of the country says that he shouldn't, 100% of the country questions whether he is cognitively fit. Now, I just made that number up, but I mean, any thinking human being can see, hey, look, this guy doesn't know where he is half the time. He talks about finishing the job. Dylan, let's see the propaganda coming out of the Pravda. I mean, coming out of the White House, coming out of the media, what I don't know, on our president announcing his bid for re-election.
Freedom. Personal freedom is fundamental to who we are as Americans.
There's nothing more important, nothing more sacred.
That's been the work of my first term, to fight for our democracy.
This shouldn't be a red or blue issue.
To protect our rights, to make sure that everyone in this country is treated equally and that everyone is given a fair shot at making it. But you know, around the country, MAGA extremists are lining up to take on those bedrock freedoms, cutting Social Security that you paid for your entire life while cutting taxes for the very wealthy, dictating what health care decisions women make, banning books, and telling people who they can love, all while making it more difficult for you to be able to vote. When I ran for president 4 years ago, I said we're in a battle for the soul of America, and we still are. The question we're facing is whether in the years ahead we have more freedom or less freedom, more rights or fewer. I know what I want the answer to be, and I think you do too. This is not a time to be complacent. That's why I'm running for re-election. Let's finish this job. I know we can, because this is the United States of America. There's nothing, simply nothing we cannot do if we do it together.
There you go. What's the job? What's actually the job? How's your 401k right now? How's inflation? Well, it's down to 4%, Dan. Okay. How many lies have been told? Hell, we had one yesterday. We were sitting here listening to a man, Ken Baxter, who actually has to deal with the border crisis. He told us all of the things that are going crazy with the border, and then KJP gets up there and just starts lying. How many lies can these people tell? How many wars can they get us into? Remember, the great George Costanza said it best. It's not a lie if you believe it. What is the actual job? Make America poor again? Take all of our money, get us into wars? What exactly is the job? Mutilate our children? Is that the job? Get it to the point where women can't play sports in, oh, wait for it, women's sports? Is that the job? What exactly is the job that this man and this administration has started? What is it? Can anybody tell me? I don't think you can. I think 4 more years of this would be tough. And I think if you decide that this is your guy, then I don't know that you have very good judgment or you're not paying attention. And most people don't pay attention. I've told you this before. A very smart family member of mine who is incredibly liberal she has a way of criticizing without. And she was kind of coming at Lee at Christmas about Trump, which is all liberals do, is worry about Trump. And Lee then asked her, well, who would you like to see be president? And her answer was, well, Pete Buttigieg, he's pretty smart. And we just I told my wife, I said, just end the conversation. I said, because this is a guy that thinks roads are racist. This is a guy that is doing nothing, Pete Buttigieg, in the current position that he has. But my point is, most people haven't been really paying attention. Most people have gone, oh, okay, this isn't exactly right. We have a president that doesn't know where he is half the time, obviously has some issues. You can look at his black eyes right now and know that he is propped up, I think, on meds. I don't know, but he seems more cognitively aware at different times than others. So I ask a simple question. What is the job that this man wants us to help him finish? Is it lying to us? Is this an African-American man? Is this a Puerto Rican man? Is this a Serbian man, a Polish man? Is it more lies to us? See, the beauty of this administration is that they have understood it doesn't matter what you do, it matters what you say. I mean, the economy is a train wreck. The dollar is being devalued, which is the most dangerous thing. Everybody acquiesces to China because of one thing and one thing only, cheap labor. I mean, people ask me all the time, why is the NBA beholden to China? Well, cheap labor. The shoes are made there, the uniform, everything's made there. Cheap labor. Why is Biden so afraid of China? Cheap labor. That's what this entire thing revolves around. It's what it's always revolved around. So let me ask you a question. What is the job? And nobody seems to have an answer. I asked it on Twitter early. I said, what is the job? Tell me. Let me know. And you know what the first response was? You know what the first response was. The first response was about Donald Trump. That was the first response. Well, your guru, Trump. It had nothing to do with Trump. Aren't we at a point where we now are in the Biden administration? Aren't we in his administration? Or am I missing something here? What does it have to do with Donald Trump? When people think they're coming at you, they think they're coming at you with an insult. So I said Biden can't finish a thought, much less the job. Can't finish a sentence. Can't finish walking upstairs. What job is it that he is finishing? Make Americans poor again, drain the 401k, fentanyl for all. A lie isn't a lie unless you believe it. Michael B. says make America safe again. From what? What are we making America safe again from? Fentanyl? No. Criminals? No. We have basically a non-accountability process in our George Soros-backed district attorneys and prosecutors. See Indianapolis. All you got to do is talk to any IMS cop and see what they have to say about Ryan Mears, the prosecutor here. It's a mess. It's a train wreck. The quote that I got from a night commander was, Ryan Mears and his pandering are actually costing lives in the African-American community. So the first response is something about Donald Trump by Kurt Stingley. The next response is Trump is your savior through and through. What would y'all do if a blue guy got in office and did a good job? Would you still complain? Of course not. I've said forever. But it's always about Trump. Always is. This is some Indiana guy, and you know Indiana guys are always going to be liberal little cretins. It's not a lie if you believe it. That's all this guy does. This lady yesterday, JRP or KRP, the lesbian one, because that's how she wants to be referred to. The queer one is how she wants to be preferred. The gay one, whatever the hell the word is for the woman who speaks to us, right? She's out here lying about the border, talking about how Republicans want open borders and bring fentanyl in when we've heard from numerous people. It could be somebody like Dan Pastorini or Brian Urlacher who've been to the border, or Ken Baxter, who's the Attorney General. It is never, well, they're right or they're wrong. It is always about attacking. Well, you're going to listen to sports people. Well, Ken Baxter has a lawsuit against him. Everybody's got a lawsuit against them. Rick Bungle says, I think by finishing the job, he means by finishing us off. It's all about, and anybody that knows this to be true, it is all about elite power, 100%, and it is all about acquiescing to China for cheap labor. So that the elites, people that own these companies, people that run Nike, people that run Facebook, that run all these places can get cheap labor. That's all it is. You can argue anything else you want, but just study it for a minute and you'll understand. We let a Chinese balloon fly across, get all of our data, and then shot it down over the water, and not one media member bitched about it. Not one media member said anything about it. Not one. Make America poor again? Fentanyl for all. Let's kill our children because this clown is beholden to power, money, the oligarchy, and you guys think that's fake. It ain't. At some point next week, I'm going to get the smartest human being you'll ever met. He's a basketball coach. His name is Carson Cunningham on here to explain this to you, and you'll be like, holy hell. But the answer is always to attack. The answer is always to Trump. Trump, 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 Trump. What exactly, Mike B, is Joe Biden making us safe from? I agree with Brian Fix. The country loves the career liberal politician, Dan. Media will never challenge. Never, ever challenge. All they'll do is criticize. All they'll do is get on. It's amazing to me, and we're going to fall for it again, but we're not really going to fall for it. What's really going to happen is there is a system in place right now. It's literally the dumbest system in the world. How can you not just simply go to the polls, show your ID to vote? How is that so difficult? Why is some fat ass that can't get off a couch not able to get off a couch one time a year and go vote? And if you're not capable, that's on you. Why is it that ballots can be mailed to your house? Nobody knows who actually fills out those ballots, and then that's your vote. How is that possible? But it's not going to change. It isn't going to change. It's not going to change for a second, because this is the system. And the only way it's going to change is when Americans rise up. I'm telling you, I see it, man. I feel it. And I usually have a pretty good feel for things. Americans sitting back watching our elections be compromised, America's sitting back watching our president lie to us, man, that's some dangerous business. Because at some point, people get to the, well, I've had enough. This dude lies to us on a daily basis. He opens his mouth, he's lying. He says something, it's a lie. And then he's got to go back and say, no, honest to God. No, honest to God. That's how you know the dude is lying. And any reasonable person sees and knows this, but that's not what we are doing. That's not what we are about. We somehow, some way don't challenge this guy at any turn. He has a woman up there that is more concerned with the LGBTQB, XYZ, whatever the hell it is, than they are you or me, and she lies literally every day. He is awful. Awful. Take out the dementia, whatever he has. He's just awful because he's a pandering liar. He's a lost soul that doesn't know what he is doing and is at the whim of it. He's basically sold himself out, and we are falling for it. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Better get on the ballot harvesting train. There's no question. There is absolutely no question. We have the most corrupt government, and we're all supposed to sit back here and just take it. God bless us. God bless America. You won't hear one thing in the Indy Star or the USA Today criticizing this idiot. You know, his new thing is how we don't raise our own children. We all raise all of our children. I don't want that perv around my kids. And I don't know if you know this, but he's got a 7th granddaughter that he doesn't even acknowledge. Hunter Biden had a kid. He's got to go in for a DNA test here. A judge just ordered it. Everybody and their mother knows it's Biden's son's kid. This guy doesn't acknowledge it, but he's out here telling us that, no, children aren't your own. They're all of ours. How idiotic is that? I don't want that sniffing clown around my kids, ever. Ever. I don't want these cretins that, hey, can I talk to you a second? Some cross-dressing, whatever this was that came up to Lee and I in Minnesota. I don't want this person around my kids. Are you out of your frickin' mind? Are you insane? What are we doing? They're all our kids. The hell they are. I mean, I think, I could be wrong, but I think there is a diary that talks about this guy showering with like 10-year-old daughters or nieces or whatever. What are we doing here? Stop it. Stop it. The level of stupid is insane. And this guy is the leader in the clubhouse. All right, let me switch gears real quick. I got to ask you a question. Which ESPN talking head will claim racism if Will Levis goes and gets drafted ahead of Bryce Young, ahead of C.J. Stroud? Will it be the great Jay Will, Stephen A. Smith? What's that guy's name? Foxworthy, the big swagoo? Which one will say, oh, it's racism? It's racism. I don't know. You tell me. I'm curious. Which one? Charlie Arnold's going to join us. She's going to have a new show starting up here right before ours, and it's very exciting. Charlie is from Indianapolis. She was with Fox. She and I actually did a stand-up show together for charity, and it was a lot of fun. I got to know her just a little bit, and then she went on to superstardom with not only the WWE, but ESPN. And then she wised up and realized, like all of us that worked at ESPN, that, man, if you don't think like them, you're going to be a little bit, if not a lot, restricted. That's why after 10 years, I got the hell out, and Charlie the same. Charlie, how are you? Thanks for coming on.
Hello. Hello. How's it going?
Where
I
are
haven't
you?
seen.
Where are you? The palatial suite? Where are we at?
Oh God, I wish. I'm in New York, so there is no such thing as a palatial suite unless you're shelling out millions of dollars, which I'm not quite there yet, but maybe eventually.
All right, let's go. Let's get into it. The new show coming up. When's it starting? What's it going to be about?
Okay, so it will be launching sometime ahead of football season. So late summer is the most probably realistic time frame. Like you said, it's going to be preceding your show. So first thing that you're seeing and hearing when you wake up in the morning, better be our show. And I say our because it'll be a show with myself and a co-host who has not been determined yet. So we're getting into that process right now, and I'm so thankful to have a hand in it, having a say who my co-host is, because oftentimes when you join a network, they don't give you a say, and it's kind of just like, okay, make it work. Good luck. So I really appreciate that OutKick is giving me the opportunity to find someone that really matches my energy, and chemistry wise, it works really well. And the show's going to be a mixture of, a little bit of everything. We're going to obviously be sports centric, but we're going to be addressing whatever news is relevant that day, whether it's in politics, whether it's in pop culture, society. So the show is so much creative freedom. So we are going to make it exactly what we think the OutKick audience needs, which, that audience I only see expanding as time goes on, as you've seen in the past, however long exactly you've been at OutKick. So it's exciting.
Charlie, let's get into it. Joe Biden announces we got to finish the job. The dude can't finish a sentence, a sandwich, or walking up the damn stairs.
What job are we finishing?
Exactly is
ending
this
the country?
finishing?
The ruination of all of our happiness and livelihoods? Sure. That's the goal. Then you're right on track. I think living here in New York, I see a lot of the problems really amplified that people are seeing around the country. Crime is absolutely horrible. Just the other day, my boyfriend was hit with a brick by a homeless guy. So, yeah. And you know what? The crazy thing is, it wasn't even one of those things where he panicked. I saw him and he was like, he's like, do my ribs look okay? And I'm like, yeah, what happened? And he was like, oh yeah, a homeless guy hit me in the park. I'm like, wait, what? And he's like, yeah, I was out there running sprints and a guy just takes a brick and, swings it around and hits me. Thank God it wasn't his head. But that's the kind of thing you're used to seeing here. I live next door to a methadone clinic in New York down the street. And so there's homeless people all over the place. People strung out on drugs, just laying in the streets, and no one's doing anything to clean it up because they can't do anything to clean it up. We don't have much of a police presence like we used to here, despite our mayor being a former police chief. And then, you just look at the prices of everything. New York is expensive as it is, but we're still feeling it here. You go to the grocery store, you can't walk out of there with, less than $100 on your bill because everything is so damn expensive. And then immigration, another big problem we're seeing across the country, especially here in New York City. It's everywhere. The city's being overrun, and those of us who are doing our part to hold steady jobs and, make good money are being forced to bear the brunt of it. Especially, we're seeing this new potential mortgage bill where those who have higher credit scores, now we have higher mortgage rates. It's just, none of it makes sense. And the direction that this country is heading in is very sad. And, then there's obviously the issue of, the transgender issue, which I'm sure we'll get into, that Joe Biden seems to really be celebrating. And as a woman, quite frankly, it's very insulting.
It's absolutely insulting. My wife, a legend in the world of softball as a coach and as a player, and she's like, this is ridiculous. We can't even have our own space. All right, you're a Colts fan. Ryan Leaf is going to come on here and give the Colts very, very good news. You worked here in Indianapolis. You're from here in Indianapolis. How should this go? How should draft day go, the first round go for the Colts? What do you see? Well,
a quarterback is how it should go. That's been the spot that they've really struggled with since, gosh, I hate to say this, since Andrew Luck retired, which still haunts me to this day. I was in Italy, so it was this beautiful trip. I had just been to a wedding the night before. I'm like living in this dreamlike state, which is why I felt like it was a dream when it was happening, because I opened up my phone after having this wonderful night and I'm like, wait, Andrew Luck is retiring. And ever since then, Dan, it has just been complete devastation for that team, and especially at that position. And, if you don't have a good quarterback, everything else looks horrible. The rest of the team looks horrible. The coach looks horrible. So until you get that position together, there's really no hope for any NFL team for that matter. So I think a quarterback is absolutely the call.
The difference between you and me is when Andrew Luck retired, you were at a beautiful wedding in a beautiful spot in Italy. I was at a beautiful wedding and a beautiful spot of Cleveland, Ohio. So there you go. That spells out the difference in the two of us. When you look overall at the NFL, because the NFL, obviously, if you're going to do a sports show, the NFL is king. We've got Aaron Rodgers traded. We've got Lamar Jackson traded. We've got the draft coming up. You've seen this for years, the NFL. It has become a year-round, can't miss, gotta watch, talk about every single freaking day deal, has it not?
Oh, yeah, it's always like that. It's, even like the past few years, we would always joke, we're like, when will it end? Because there's so much speculation and you have to craft so many storylines around the same characters in the same event. And it's, you get to a point where it almost becomes like you're just throwing shots in the dark, like, oh, what if this happens? Oh, but what if this happens? Or what if this happens? And it just gets, I think everyone feels it, even those who, are super gung-ho about the draft. When the draft finally comes to an end, everybody is happy. So, this is a long time, a long time coming tonight. Only a few more hours away till we can stop talking about it quite as much.
In Indy, it's like every year, oh, we got the guy we wanted. Oh, I can't believe that guy was still on the board. Oh, my God, I'm amazed that we got this guy. And then we go 4 and 13. All right, I got to ask you, because you put it out there on Twitter today. I've had enough of Meghan Markle and Prince Harry. I can't stand people that say, I don't want attention, and then are writing books and then going on shows. If you don't want attention, there are ways to do that, particularly when you have $1 billion at your disposal. I'm a big fan of this kind of stuff. I'm a big People magazine fan. I love it. But I've had enough of these two. Enough.
Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you what, I have not bought into the Meghan Markle, Prince Harry drama that a lot of people have. I don't really pay much attention to it because it just, like, honestly, what are you all whining about? Like, you have one of the most ideal situations of anybody in the world. You're royalty, you're rich, you have a family that, even though you want to shun them, who love you and care deeply about you. You have like all of these incredible traditions that you're able to uphold. I just find it very interesting that they want nothing to do with that. Because if you put me in that situation, I would thrive. All right. I would be loving it. So, yeah, I think, like you said, if you don't want attention, why are you going to a huge playoff game, sitting in a box? And then when the, Jumbotron puts the attention on you, just act normal, right? Kiss. That's what anybody else would do who's married and happily in love. Instead, you make a scene by turning your head and then causing people to wonder, like, oh, what's going on with them? Why wouldn't, I don't know. It's just like, there's always something. And I don't know. Meghan Markle just seems like a whole lot of drama to me. I think she is the one who probably brainwashed Prince Harry more than anything.
Why are we so infatuated with the Kardashians and Meghan Markle, Prince Harry? What is it, like royalty fascinates? What's the deal here? Walk me through this, please.
I think it's just the life that they live is so unattainable for most of us. The things that they get to do, you look at Kim Kardashian wearing Marilyn Monroe's dress at the Met Gala, and how the whole process took place. She had to lose all this weight. She had to have a whole team scrunch her into this dress. It's just like almost, it doesn't feel like it's real life. And I mean, a lot of what the Kardashians are living is not real life. And I'm sure, if we were to really have them open up in a therapy session about how this life has made them feel, it probably wouldn't be so pretty. But from an outsider looking in, I mean, it looks amazing. So we're all just infatuated with them. And it's not just one of them. It's Kim, it's Chloe, it's Courtney, it's Kendall, it's Kylie, it's Kris Jenner. I mean, even Caitlyn Jenner. I mean, you can't, Kanye West, every single person that touches that family has the most bizarre, Lamar Odom. I mean, look at every single person. Ben Simmons. I mean, literally every single person that has come into contact with that family. God bless them. It is just, you got to feel for them.
I want to go back to something you and I talked about earlier, and it's a transgender deal. Here's a clip from this Leah Thomas, and we'll get your thoughts on it after we play it. Go ahead, Dylan.
They're like, oh, we respect Leah as a woman, as a trans woman, whatever. We respect her identity. We just don't think it's fair. You can't really have that sort of half support where you're like, oh, I respect her as a woman here, but not here. They're using the guise of feminism to sort of push transphobic beliefs. And I think a lot of people in that camp sort of carry an implicit bias against trans people, but don't want to, I guess, fully manifest or speak that out. And so they try to just play it off as this sort of half support.
They think about how twisted feminism, quote unquote, feminism has become. Their arguments, in order to exclude anybody in the trans category, you have to reduce women to reproductive capacity, which is, in my opinion, extremely anti-feminist. I don't want to put those women down either, and I know you don't want to either, because I see pain. I see pain, and the pain is coming from somewhere. It's not you, though. It's the patriarchy. And how can we get people to see that?
Oh, my God.
What the hell did they just say there? What is
oh
it?
My
give
God.
me your
Listen,
reaction.
You know what, Dan, it makes me sad. It makes me sad that these conversations are being legitimized and that people are watching this being like, oh my God, yeah, that makes total sense, because I am not a feminist. All right, let me just make that very clear. I am not a feminist. I never have been. Like, do I not want to thrive and, have the same opportunities as my male counterpart? Sure, but I do not identify myself as a feminist. I work very hard. I don't just expect things to be given to me because I am a woman. So for them to say this has a feminist guise, absolutely not. I am very much a believer in a lot of traditional values as it pertains to women, but I also, like I said, I'm very progressive when it comes to women. But like we were talking before, it is an insult for men to try and invade a space that belongs to women that they've worked really hard to garner for themselves through decades and decades of history. And it's been tough. So, we finally have a space that's ours and men have a space that's theirs. So it's not fair for men then to say, oh, well, because I identify now as a woman, I get to take over your space. It's just all very upsetting. They keep trying to switch the conversation to something that it's not, to legitimize their beliefs and push their agendas. And I don't know. I just wonder when it's going to stop. And I'm worried that it's not going to, because we've already created a very slippery slope for what a transgender athlete or just a transgender in general is able to accomplish. And I think it's just going to get very dangerous for women. We've already seen a lot of instances in sports, and you just have to wonder when it's going to end. But I will say very confidently, it has nothing to do with feminism, has nothing to do with transphobic beliefs either, because I can also very confidently say I am not any of those things. I think everybody should be able to live exactly the way that they want, that makes them happy, but not at the expense of others. And I think that this trans athlete issue does come at the expense of women. And it's very sad. It's very, very sad.
Yeah, I don't know that it's going to stop, but I do think, one of the interesting things is, unless, like they said, unless you're 100% in, then you're transphobic. My ass. Right. I had a good friend of mine, a young lady said, hey, look, give these dudes one period and that would end that crap immediately.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing is you're like, oh, you want to be a woman? Well, then why don't you go through every single thing that a woman has to go through? Like, right now, Dan, thank you for referencing. I mean, I won't so explicitly imply, but I'm breaking out right now. I had a terrible sleep last night. I'm feeling very bloated. So, yeah, come on in. Welcome to our world. It's beautiful.
I heard one of those guys said, well, I wish the period fairy would join me. And my wife looked at that and go, really? That's what you wish for? The period?
No, you don't. Please. I don't wish that upon anybody. It's so funny. Even my boyfriend knows. Last night, I just started complaining about something so random. And he was like, all right, I'm just going to ignore everything you're saying because you're literally all over the place. You're up, you're down, you're up, you're down. And I'm like, fair. It's a fair assessment.
Right. Hey, Charlie, congrats, man. Can't wait. It's going to be a lot of fun. Thanks for joining me, and congratulations. And good luck picking a co-host.
Yeah, and I am excited because I'm getting to head back to Indianapolis on Friday to host the Make-A-Wish benefit at the JW Marriott downtown on Saturdays, which is my third year doing it. So excited to get back to Indy, see my friend, maybe pop into good old Fox 59, do a little segment, advertising, we'll see.
Yeah. Thanks, Charlie. Thank you.
All right. Thanks.
She's awesome. You're going to love her. Charlie on TV is where to go follow her on Instagram. Go follow her on Twitter, and the show will be fantastic. I can promise you that. Charlie, CHRLY on TV. I mean, we're going to come back. We're going to play that Leah Thomas segment again. And I'm going to be like, what are you talking about? I mean, why? The level, all right, my head explodes when I just hear children, well, this dude is trying to do what? What's he trying to do? Is he trying to change the world? I mean, I listen to idiots, and idiots always show their stupidity. That's just the way it is. Oh, man. Also, hey, Will Levis, according to Reddit, is going to be the #1 pick in the draft. And our boy FAUCI with a declaration. What a show we got. And the Reds actually won a game. Look at us. Hey, Dan, Connie, you're making common sense here. Men can't experience that because they are men. Can you imagine, Connie and others on the YouTube chat? By the way, subscribe, like, follow us on YouTube. Can you imagine this conversation 25 years ago, whether men are actually men? It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. This is the conversation that we're having. We'll be right back.
Yeah, folks, we are still talking about Bud Light, and here's why. The apology from Anheuser-Busch CEO Brendan Whitworth late last week wasn't a freaking apology. I'm not going to read the whole statement because, quite frankly, it's tone deaf and skirts the entire point, which leads me to believe this woman may have written it. But basically, CEO Brendan Whitworth said the company never intended to divide people, peace, love, inclusion, blah, blah, blah. Let's go, Brendan. You missed the whole point. And it's really so simple. Acknowledge that the partnership with a man who puts on a prom dress and pretends to be a teenage girl was a really stupid marketing move, and it pissed off your actual customers. It's that simple. But this apology, or lack thereof, has divided even the conservative community, with a very unlikely voice coming to Bud Light's defense, Don Jr.
Anheuser-Busch totally shit the bed with this Dylan Mulvaney thing. I'm not, though, for destroying an American and iconic company for something like this. Trust me, the memes have been so good. I'm sitting there chomping at it, like I want it. But like when I actually look into it, I'm not going to blame the whole company for the inaction or the stupidity of someone in a marketing campaign that got woke as hell. The company itself doesn't participate in the same leftist nonsense as the other big conglomerates. Frankly, they don't participate in the same woke garbage that other people in the beer industry actually do, who are significantly worse offenders when I looked into it. They'd be one of the more conservative-leaning companies in America. So they've been put on notice. I'm leaving them alone. I think you should probably do the same. If they do it again, they've been warned. But in the grand scheme of things, man, Anheuser-Busch, a lot less woke than the rest of corporate America. So I don't know that we want to kill the guys that are the least of the offenders.
So Don's perspective is that the Anheuser-Busch brand and family has been pretty good to Republicans over the years, so we should cut them some slack. I disagree.
you, another year, another Paul George saying, our time is coming. I told you years ago on Mike and Mike that Paul George was a complete fraud, and Paul George continues to be a complete fraud. But Paul George says, ladies and gentlemen, our time is coming. Really? All right. By the way, Colts fans, Ryan Leaf is going to make you very happy, and other fans, Ryan Leaf's top 10 is going to make you go, huh? You know how they have things that make you go, huh? I actually look at Ryan Leaf's top 10, and I kind of like it for a lot of reasons. Ryan is going to join us coming up. Speaking of the draft, listen to this. This is insanity. This is the world that we're in. I'm going to read this verbatim. A random Reddit post. So on Reddit, somebody's post claiming Will Levis told his family the Panthers are taking him first overall has caused a massive swing in not people's perception, but the gambling odds. Listen to this. Levis went from plus 4,000, meaning if you bet $100, you win $4,000 to plus 400. So take a zero off of that to go first overall. Is the NFL world about to be shocked? I don't know. I don't know. I believe that for maybe the first time, Chris Ballard was actually right when he said, look, everybody's lying at this point. I do know this. These random things that show up, it's my experience, and this goes back to Indiana in 2007 and 8, a random post that got taken down on Peegs.com caused an incredible stir because it was accurate and it was from inside. So I've always taken these kind of random posts with a little bit of a grain of salt, a little bit. I'm not saying this is true, and I'm not saying he's going number one. But I am saying I'm not the guy, and here you see it right here, I'm not the guy that just totally discounts these because I've seen it for myself. So if he goes number one, the question then is, which ESPN dude is going to say it's racial? Oh, it's racist. You know Jamel Hill will. We discount her. She's no longer an ESPN dude. She's no longer nothing. But which one will say, well, it's racial? Well, the white owner is more comfortable having dinner with the white quarterback than he is with the black quarterback. Which one of these idiots is going to do that? Which one? I want to hear from you. Which one is it? If he goes number one, it has the opportunity to become the smartest move or the dumbest move. And here's why. Smartest move because you pick a guy over others and you saw something others don't. And it's not physical because the dude has all of the physical traits that you can possibly have. You did a great job if you are the Panthers and this works out, okay, that you are smarter. The dumb comes in this. He doesn't have to go number one. Like if Andrew Luck was going to flame out as the number one pick, that's not your fault. He had to go number one. He was by far the best player. Everybody and their mother would never fault you for taking Andrew Luck. There are two other guys in the mix here, C.J. Stroud and Bryce Young. And nobody really has been able, at least to me, and I've paid attention to this, to separate themselves other than if they did in private interviews. I'm watching Bryce Young play in college, and he's very good. But do you really trust an Alabama quarterback? Maybe you do. Heck, I don't know. Do you consider Jalen Hurts an Alabama quarterback, or do you consider him an Oklahoma quarterback? What do you consider Tua Tagovailoa? A great quarterback? Is he a bust? Is he good enough? I don't have the answer. But what I'm saying is, if you pick Levis and it turns out to be right, it's an all-time great move. Because you didn't have to. You saw something others didn't. And again, it ain't physical. The dude can throw it, I saw it, from his knees and hit the goalpost from the 50-yard line. That's incredible. That's unbelievable. All right? That's arm talent, as Jaws used to say. He's built, he's strong, blah, 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 blah. But you don't have to take them. But if they do and it works out, I am all in on them. Hey, our boy, Dr. Fauci, back in the news. He finally admitted that mask mandates were a broad spectrum failure. He finally admitted, from a broad health standpoint, at the population level. What does that mean? Like, at the population level. That means, and when I read it, he and the medical professionals are up here and we're just the minions. We're the proletariat. Masks work at the margins, maybe 10%. So we had to put kids in masks for 2 years. 2 freaking years of masking kids. I don't care that I had to do it. I don't care that my wife had to do it. I'm not happy about it. I'm not pleased about it. But look, I'm not going to sit here, jump up and down, stand on my head and crap snowballs and lose my mind over it. But damn, I could not imagine being a kid going to high school and I got to wear a freaking mask and it turns out it's only 10% effective. That would drive me bat blank crazy. Wouldn't it you? I think it would. So now we admit, hey, look, 10%. How do you come up with the number 10%? Like everything that I'm spitting out, only 10% gets in? How do you come up with that number? What does that number mean? Only 10%. What? All right. I guess. Okay. Man, all right. Chris Russo is paid $10,000 by ESPN for every appearance that you see. At least that's what he told Howard Stern. Chris Russo has always been a guy that has been critical of ESPN. Chris Russo is one of my favorite hosts. Talks a little too much about baseball, and in my world, I like it, others don't. But Chris Russo, I don't think we can play this, can we? Chris Russo hates Disney World. Now, for those of you that don't know, Chris Russo works for Disney. Disney World, Disneyland, Disney whatever, is a big part of it. And Chris Russo said, hey, look, go somewhere else. Go somewhere educational. Don't go to Disney World. What are you going to Disney World? Oh, yeah, Disney. You want to lay off my ESPN coworkers? I'll go on my radio show and tear your company down. Probably not, but funny to think about. Well, Chris Russo, I guess, has become a star on ESPN. Disney's laying off 7,000 people. Most of them, actually, at least this week, have been in the radio realm. They've completely gutted. They gutted a friend of mine, Louise Cornetta, who I really liked. I did a podcast there, and she was awesome to me. Everybody there was always awesome to me. But he called Disney World, quote, brainless entertainment. The food is garbage, wants people to stop calling it America's vacation. Now, he said this on his Sirius XM radio show, which is not affiliated with Disney or ESPN. But I got to tell you, I used to have to answer all the time for my radio show, and we were not, I guess, an official affiliate of ESPN. But, hey, man, good for Chris Russo. God bless Chris Russo. He probably will still be there because Stephen A. Smith likes him, respects him, knows that Russo's intellect is far beyond his in terms of sports. There's no question about it. But Russo wasn't holding back, and you and I both know I kind of dig it. I kind of dig when people are just honest at an expense. I always said about Colin Kaepernick, you can get mad at him, but it cost him. And he was gutsy enough to do something that cost him. You can hate me for it, whatever you want to do, but it's true. I don't know if this will cost Russo anything other than, hey, man, what are you doing? Like, what's the upside? That's what they'll say. What's the upside to this? That's always management's thing. There's no upside to this, Chris. You know, we're paying you 10 grand a pop. All you do is come in here like on Tuesday, sit across from Stephen A. Smith and argue with each other. We send you a car. That's it. And you get 10 grand. I think he had 40 appearances. That's 400 grand. What are you doing? Why are you biting the golden goose? But hey, look, Chris Russo, I salute you. At least you're being honest. You get the Puerto Rico today salute from the coffee, and the Chicago gunfire salute on the coffee. A trans runner decided it would be a good thing to do what? Well, run. Okay. A trans runner decided that, well, after running as a man a week ago, I'm going to run as a woman and beat 14,000 women. A trans runner beat 14,000 women in the London Marathon after running the New York Marathon as a dude. Now, come on, people. There's got to be at least some kind of, I don't know, legislation, rules, cup check, penis check, grab a crank, give him a little tap, have a piss. There's got to be something. Like somebody should be able to sneakily walk behind this person into a bathroom. If you pee sitting down, you run with the women. If you pee standing up, you run with the men. I don't know. A lot of dudes my age pee sitting down, though, so they don't spray it all over the place. Mara Yamaguchi finished sixth in the 2008 Beijing Olympics. Pissed. Mara's pissed. Tell you why she's pissed. Glenique Frank, all right? Glenique Frank said, look, this is awesome. Girl power. And ran in the UK race on Sunday. Here's what Yamaguchi said. Nearly 14,000 actual females suffered a worse finish position because of Frank, who said that even when she was ranked second in the world as a woman, at least 1,300 men were faster than me. The UK athletics applied World Athletics rules on the exclusion of transgender women from elite female competitions, making it fair for athletes who have gone for male puberty to be excluded. I don't know what any of this is, but I know this. This Glenique Frank is a dude with a packy, with a crank. I'm just telling you. And now all of a sudden, this male runs as a male, now runs as a female and beats 1,400 women. Back in the Tokyo Marathon, the dude ran as Glenn Frank. Now it's Glenique Frank. Girl power, Glenique Frank. Girl power, an experienced man. Listen to this. Listen here. An experienced men's marathon runner runs in the women's category. It's a great day because he is going to be a granny soon, meaning grandma. That is going to be a grandma soon. And I am going to sprout a little afro soon. We have the same amount of chance. I'm going to have a little bit of a fro or a 70s middle cut, little wings on the side, and this dude is going to be a grandmother. I got two words for you. You know what they are. My backside. My backside. I've had enough. Enough of this crap. And the clowns that are Sue Bird, who now is in every one of my commercials, and her clown friend, Megan Rapinoe, who is in most of my commercials, support this. I want you to think about that, women, for just a second. Megan Rapinoe, whose career is coming to a close, and Sue Bird support this. Explain that to moi. I'll hang up and listen. How can you possibly support that? That is impossible to do. Not a rational thinking human being can support that. This right here running as a woman. Tell me I'm wrong. I'll hang up and listen. Seriously. I'll hang up and listen if you tell me I'm wrong, but I ain't wrong. There ain't nobody supporting this that has anything other than their brand to think about. Normal thinking human beings do not support this dude running as a woman. I don't care what you tell me. You cannot tell me differently. If you do tell me differently, then I am going to go all liberal on you and tell you you are not a normal thinking human being. That's what I'm going to do. Period. Period. Dan, when did Megan Rapinoe and Sue Bird transition? No, I bet you they're just mean in person. It's like Ellen. You know they're just mean. Just nasty. Just nasty people. Just telling you. Nasty. Hey, let's play that Leah Thomas if we can. Can we cue up that Leah Thomas word salad of gibberish, please? If you don't mind. As we go to break.
Oh, we respect Leah as a woman, as a trans woman, whatever. We respect her identity. We just don't think it's fair. You can't really have that sort of half support where you're like, oh, I respect her as a woman here, but not here. They're using the guise of feminism to sort of push transphobic beliefs. And I think a lot of people in that camp sort of carry an implicit bias against trans people, but don't want to, I guess, fully manifest or speak that out. And so they try to just play it off as this sort of half support.
They think about how twisted feminism, quote unquote, feminism has become. Their arguments, in order to exclude anybody in the trans category, you have to reduce women to reproductive capacity, which is, in my opinion, extremely anti-feminist. I don't want to put those women down either, and I know you don't want to either, because I see pain. I see pain, and the pain is coming from somewhere. It's not you, though. It's the patriarchy. And how can we get people to see that?
Yeah, go to hell. We'll be right back. Get out of here.
One thing you'll notice is every pitcher will do this, or this, or this, and that's to get moisture for this, okay? This is rosin, and the rosin bag, if you can probably see this, it's coming out, there's a little dust, right? It's like a little fine powder. Of itself, it's not sticky. Like I have rosin in my hand, it's not sticky. However, the second I do this, when I'm sweating, I make the rosin sticky. That's when I go back to the ball and rub the ball up to give me a little more adhesion between my hand and the ball. Now, here's the thing. If you think about this, if I put a fine powder on my hand and then I make that powder wet that makes it sticky, any dirt that I come in contact with is going to stick to my hand, all right? So what you're going to see over the course of a couple innings will be my hand will start to darken because it might look like a substance, but it's not. It's just sticky rosin that has dirt in it. Now, I was a guy, so here's the thing. I threw a split-fingered fastball, right? I did not want the ball to stick to my fingers ever. So I didn't want rosin in between my fingers. So I would wash the insides of my fingers between innings with alcohol if it got too sticky. However, there are other guys that throw sinkers, certain breaking balls, who will want the ball to be extra sticky, and they'll just let their hand muddy up. Now, the umpires can certainly say, hey, listen, you got to wash it off. That's fine. But they have to acknowledge that just washing it off isn't going to change the fact that it's sticky, because you go back to the rosin, you have more moisture, it gets stickier. Your hand's going to look dark no matter what, right? And if you touch your hat all the time, you'll see that Major League Baseball players' hats a lot of times will get dark under the brim or dark at the cap. Also, guys like Gaylord Perry that used to cheat, they would use Vaseline on the inside of their caps. They would use Vaseline on the inside of their bottom lower lip because it stayed there. And you see guys that used to do this a lot. That was what they were doing, and then they'd lick their hands. Anyway, so your hand's going to be, so Max's hand was clearly in a non-agreeable state to the umpires. He went back, I'm sure he watched it, but he came back, and you could see the way he was arguing. He didn't do, in his mind, he didn't do it. He followed their orders. He did what they said to do. And this ambiguous rule needs to be fixed and changed.
I always enjoy having Ryan Leaf on because he is not like everybody else, and that's what I like. I like people that think for themselves, don't just look at a mock draft and regurgitate the same nonsense, and it is due to him being a player. That's right, and I always say, man, players know. Ryan joins us now. All right, I got to get into this. I want to ask you, I saw Will Levis throw a football from his knees 50 yards and hit a goalpost. My wife looked at me and said, okay, what does that mean? I said, I don't know. It just means he can throw a football a long freaking way, right? I mean, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, it takes something special to do that. One of the skills that I like to show off is I like to walk into a basketball gymnasium, especially when they had all the hoops up around for practice, and then I like to showcase how I could throw the ball from one end of the gymnasium to the other, keeping it at the same level of the 10-foot high rim. That's where I showed my arm strength, and you just learn how to do some things that show off your arm, and you contribute to that. I don't think it means he's going to be a great NFL quarterback. Doesn't mean he's going to be a bad NFL quarterback. It means he's incredibly talented and has a strong arm.
You don't have him in your top 10 as I'm looking at it here. Why?
Well, for me, he has a second round grade. But I expect him to be drafted in the first round because general managers have a ton of fear of missing out on the next big thing. He's close. I have the Texans taking him at 12. So, they get their quarterback after passing over a guy at number 2. They still get a quarterback to see if that can make it work. I would like to see him in a place now. He can still go to Houston and sit for a little bit, right? Case Keenum's there now. Davis Mills has some starting, education behind him. He could take over the helm while Will Levis learns and everything like that. But I'm excited to see how they utilize some of these guys that I don't think have a first round grade that most likely will get drafted in the first round tomorrow night.
Your fourth pick of the draft, which is interesting, and you see Ryan's top 10 right here. For us in Indianapolis, this would be great, would it not? This would be a win, at least, until we see people play on the actual field. This would be a great thing for Indy. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I definitely agree. My points bet mock draft came out last week, and then I had to refocus some things with some trades with the Packers and the Jets, and of course some of the conversation around C.J. Stroud and his S2 score, things like that. Yeah, I think if he were to fall to Indianapolis, everybody up there would be incredibly pleased that this happened, that he was able to fall to them, because for as much as we want to garner from an aptitude test or a testing aspect of things, I don't want it to dissuade what I've seen on the film. And I've watched a ton of film on him. And the guy is a gamer. He is a leader. He is talented. He is accurate. And all of those things lead me to believe he's going to be a special pro quarterback. And if the Colts are able to snag him at 4, after all the consternation all offseason on whether they should move up and grab him or move up and get somebody else and all these things going on, I think that would be just a coup for the Indianapolis Colts and Jim Irsay and that staff.
Is Bryce Young your number 1 quarterback? And is it clear?
CJ Stroud was my number 1 quarterback. And I haven't been dissuaded by the S2 score. Now, will he be drafted first overall? I don't think so. I think that's pretty much a done deal that Bryce Young is going to be the number 1 overall pick. And I think he's a great quarterback. Both these guys were at the top for me. They were the only 2 that I had first round grades on, were CJ Stroud and Bryce Young. So, CJ Stroud's the best quarterback in this draft, in my opinion. If he were to fall to 4 to Indy, again, that is such a great thing for the organization. I do think Bryce Young's going to be a good quarterback. We'll see how much punishment he can take, especially with no wide receivers really to play with in year 1 in Carolina. But I expect it to play out that way, yes.
Hey, Ryan, you have Will Anderson going number 2, the Seahawks then at number 5. Taking Jalen Carter. If you were going to do this draft on who the best player, just simply in your mind, the best player or the 2 best players are, where would Anderson, where would Carter fit in that?
Well, I mean, just like anybody, when you walked out your first kind of rough draft around the draft, Jalen Carter was the most talented football player on it, period, in everybody's book, right? Already had the high grade, the off the field stuff that has played out, the 2 opportunities for your biggest job interviews ever. You show up to one and ultimately get arrested and sent back down to Georgia to turn yourself in. And then for your pro day, you show up out of shape and you don't finish the drills. Those types of things can play and throw a wrench into a lot of it. Now, what you do need is you need a veteran coach, you need a veteran leadership on a defensive side of the football, and an organization that can take that on and help and think you could make that work. And I think that's the Seattle Seahawks. I think with Pete Carroll, Bobby Wagner back, you bring in Jalen Carter as the front part of that defense, Bobby Wagner in the middle, Jamal Adams coming back with some of those corners that they have built. I think that defense becomes a pretty dominant force. So I like Jalen Carter at 5. I think a lot of people are looking at him more around 9 or 10. I just don't think he slips that far. I think he goes there. Will Anderson and Tyree Wilson are 2 guys you probably couldn't differentiate except for maybe their length. Will Anderson, I think, has the better upside simply because that type of player has been more consistent as the edge. But those are the and then Christian Gonzalez at corner. I think those are probably the 4 defensive players that come off the board first.
You know, one of the interesting things about this draft, and again, I'm using Indianapolis, we need weapons. We need weapons on the outside. Wide receivers, are valuable, more so than running backs. At least that's what I'm being told. What are your thoughts on the wide receiver crew? Obviously there's none in your top 10. Where are you at with that group?
Yeah, it all depends, and I think it's team need. And I think the first team that ultimately comes up, which is ironic because of the trade that happened, I think Jackson Smith-Njigba is the wide receiver number 1 out of Ohio State. And ironically enough, you get rid of Rodgers and you go get a wide receiver in the first round and add him to the Jordan Love conversation. I think he goes first. I got Quentin Johnston as my next best. I have him going to Seattle at 20 to match him with Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf. I think that makes for a very formidable passing game with Geno Smith involved there. And then there's guys like Zay Flowers and Jordan Addison that people have talked about, Jalen Hyatt. I like Jonathan Mingo out of Ole Miss, and I really like Marvin Mims out of Oklahoma. Both guys I do not think will be drafted in the first round, but I think could make a real difference on a football team, and you may be able to get them for a steal. I like Marvin Mims as that guy. He reminds me a ton of Amon-Ra St. Brown out of USC from a couple of years ago. So yeah, there's a lot of interesting takes. This year's draft, I think I only had about 21 players with first round grades. So that means that you're going to be looking at different ways to build your team with what you would consider maybe non-first round talent because you have a first round draft pick. So don't be surprised if we see some teams in the 20s maybe dropping out of the first round to get some draft compensation to build up their roster with other draft picks.
Hey, you mentioned Rodgers. Give me your thoughts on the trade to the Jets.
Well, I think it was inevitable. I mean, this contract was set up to be traded. It was just a matter of whether or not Green Bay would stick to their guns and try to get the most compensation for an asset that the Jets firmly believe can put them in the championship conversation. So I think it was meant to be. The Jets were going to make it happen. Ownership finally got impatient and said, hey, just whatever it takes, get it done. He becomes a Jet. But now those expectations for the New York Jets, who haven't been to the playoffs forever, haven't won a championship since, over half a century ago, it's championship or bust. It really is. And those are a lot of expectations. So it will be fun covering this team in New York. Are they a playoff team? Yeah, they have playoff talent. Will they make the playoffs? I don't know. You look at all the AFC contenders in terms of quarterbacks, some guys are going to miss out. And those are guys that you would expect to be in the playoffs this year. So should make for a very interesting year. Do I think they win a championship? No. I think they're right back in the same boat a year from now. I think Rodgers, I don't know if he goes back into the darkness to decide if he wants to come back, but this is going to be a year-to-year thing, unfortunately, for the New York Jets.
How big a distraction is that? Because NFL people always tell me if you talk retirement, then you're pretty much retired. I think Parcells said that 100 years ago, and everybody hangs on to that. Is that any type distraction, or are you just so excited you got Aaron Rodgers, you buck up a little bit?
Yeah, you buck up quite a bit when you got Aaron Rodgers. I mean, is he a guy that can change the atmosphere? Because the Jets, unfortunately, systemically are broken. So Aaron Rodgers has to be the fix. And for right now, in the moment, for the year, Jets fans, the organization, even his teammates now can all be optimistic for what he brings to the table. So, yeah, if I'm Jets fans, I'm excited. If I am Jets players, I'm excited. I believe we can go do it. Will they? I mean, you got to go play the game. But I tell you right now, you're walking around the streets of New York, it wouldn't surprise me if we saw like some makeshift Super Bowl parade before the season even starts from Jets fans.
You know, you also mentioned, and I've documented it on here, the quarterbacks in the AFC. And one of them, you know, you got your Chargers sweater on there. One of them is Justin Herbert. Where is he at in the pantheon of quarterbacks in the AFC?
He's pretty darn good. You know, unfortunately, they haven't been able to win a playoff game. They got to the playoffs a year ago, should have won it on the road, and then let that giant comeback happen. He's incredibly talented. If they can add some pieces, I think they probably go after Dalton Kincaid, tight end out of Utah at the 21st pick, build some on defense. I think Kellen Moore as an offensive coordinator is an absolutely wonderful addition. Thank you, Dallas Cowboys. Thank you for arbitrarily just getting rid of one of the most dynamic minds, I think, in all of football offensively. So I think that makes for a good opportunity. Now, like I said, it's loaded, right? Where does he sit? You know, Joe Burrow's near the top. Patrick Mahomes is certainly there. You got Josh Allen. You have Lamar Jackson if he chooses to play or whether he plays. You have Trevor Lawrence. Now you bring in Russell Wilson in year 2 with the likes of Sean Payton. And now Aaron Rodgers is in the conversation now with the New York Jets in the AFC. Tua Tagovailoa, when he played, they were the best offensive passing team in all of football if he stayed in the game. So it's incredible on the AFC side of things, and it should make for a heck of a year next year. Excited for it to start.
Hey, Ryan, how important is it? This has been discussed on every show, and you know this better than anybody I'm going to watch on any show. How important is it for Rodgers to be at OTAs, to be a presence immediately in the Jets building, on the field early, whenever the hell OTAs start?
I think it gets blown out of proportion a little in terms of, a veteran like that with his experience in Nathaniel Hackett's offense. But I do think it's important to, for the rapport between your wide receivers, your new teammates as a leader, not just coming in and the aura of Aaron Rodgers. Because if he doesn't meet those expectations for some players in the locker room, initially, that may backfire a little bit. So I think this instance, it's important for him to be there. Will he be there? Doubtful, right? I mean, he loves his time in Southern California in the offseason. He regroups, he finds his center, all those things. And so I wouldn't expect him to be around for, voluntary workouts, for the mandatory stuff. Of course, he's going to be there, I expect. But if I'm Jets fans and if I'm Jets players, I wouldn't expect him to be there during the voluntary workout stages of this.
Mac Jones is with Bill Belichick. That has not exactly been Tom Brady with Bill Belichick. Where are the New England Patriots in this whole AFC mix?
Well, with Bill Belichick, you can never count him out because he can compartmentalize any kind of game plan week to week, right? He can get you wins. Like, he can go out and run the ball every single time and find a way to win. The next week, he could go out and throw the ball every single time and find a way to win. He's a great football coach. Now, what was so dumbfounding last year was that he went and hired 2 defensive coaches to be the offensive coordinator in the second year of development for Mac Jones. And he regressed. So Bill Belichick's got to take that on the chin, not in the offseason, try to double down by maybe seeking a trade for him or telling him that the competition is open. He is good enough to be the leader of this football team as he showcased his rookie year. So I love that Bill O'Brien's in there. They can be a team that could surprise a lot of people. They really can, with some things that are, back to normal. We'll see how that goes. But they're certainly in the 4th position in a division they dominated for decades.
Yeah, that division has changed, man. I mean, Josh Allen comes in there, Tua comes in there, and now Aaron Rodgers comes in there. I love talking to you because your insight is absolutely fantastic. I'm going to go the other way. Jordan Love. Jordan Love is now, I guess, going to get his shot. San Francisco, is Purdy going to play out? You know, there's rumors he's out for the season. Is it Trey Lance? What do you see out of those two franchises?
Well, I expect that the Green Bay Packers feel comfortable with Jordan Love taking over. They know it's not going to be a quick fix, right? There's going to be some, growing pains, just like there was with Aaron Rodgers. I don't think a lot of people remember that in Aaron Rodgers' first season as the starting quarterback, the team went 6-10. I don't know if Jordan Love has that rope. I really don't. I think it would be very problematic for him to walk out at the end of the season not having made the playoffs, be a 7-10 or 6-11 team. I think they have to be better than that. So the expectations have to be tempered a little bit. But I will say this. I think he's ready to go. He's been in this system his entire time in the NFL. He's got a strong arm. He's big. He's physical. His teammates like him. He's a young player with a lot of youth on that offensive side of the football. So it should be interesting. The division is kind of up in the air, right? The Bears are trying to figure out who they are. Where are the Detroit Lions going? They probably are the team to beat in that division. And then from a year ago, the Vikings won every one-score game all year long. And I don't know if they can duplicate that again this year, but they're in the mix too. So I like Jordan Love. As for the San Francisco 49ers, you talked about it. I think they found their guy. I think Purdy's the guy. It's just a matter of when that elbow is able to go. Trey Lance, of course, they gave up so much. When you hit it really strong with the last overall pick in the NFL draft, you can miss if you're John Lynch on the number 3. I would like to see him stay there because most likely he's going to have to be the starter to start the year if he's healthy enough. If not, they went and got an insurance policy with Sam Darnold. And in Kyle Shanahan's offense, it's going to be the best offensive scheme that he's ever played in as a quarterback. And, he's a talented veteran. He really is. He could go out there and start for this team, and they can win games in the interim until one of these two other quarterbacks, these young quarterbacks, get an opportunity to go out and try to win the job.
I could be dead wrong about this, at least in your eyes, but when I look at Jimmy Garoppolo, and maybe it's a function of being on the 49ers, but all I see is a dude that wins games. What are your thoughts on him with the Raiders?
I'm with you, man. I was just like, how do you just discard a guy? Maybe, the price point may be too high. Dude just wins. Isn't that what this is about? Winning football games? And I love Jimmy Garoppolo, and he takes a ton of heat. He does. So maybe he's just a guy that sits in my heart a little bit. But I think he'll do a tremendous job in Las Vegas. Let's see how they attack the draft defensively. Because they have to improve defensively. Derek Carr was never the problem, ever the problem. You have an offense in place. You have an offensive-minded head coach. You have to be better on defense so you can compete in that division. Otherwise, you're going to, finish 4th. That's just how it's going to go.
Yeah, as I coached for college basketball for a long time, and I'm sitting there going, hey, the only thing I gave a rat's about was let's win the freaking game. I don't care if a walk-on does it or the star does it. Winning the game is it, period. That's it.
It is. And if you're a competitor, you don't care how you do it, what it looks like, doesn't matter. Win the game because you can sit back there after it's done and say, hey, wins and losses don't have photos next to them, all right? Doesn't matter.
Are you all in on Justin Fields with the Bears?
I am. I'm all in. And ironically enough, over here at PointsBet, he's been the top bet on player for MVP next year. Just because the odds are great, but he has got the highest bet count in terms of how that's going here at PointsBet, and that's that could be that has tremendous value. I'm all in on what we saw last year and how improved he was in terms of just understanding what it takes to win, what it takes to get and be the best player on the football field, and what they did in the offseason to add to that on the defensive side of the football. They went and got him a wide receiver number 1. Now he's got to make a leap. He's got to make the Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts leap in terms of accuracy in throwing the football down the field. I think he's every bit capable of doing that. I expect to see it, and I think the Chicago Bears are going to be much improved this season because of Justin Fields and the additions they've made on the offensive and defensive sides of the football.
Hey, last thing about the college kids. Is Stroud the most accurate of these quarterbacks?
He's pretty darn accurate. Bryce Young is incredibly accurate too, especially down the football field. So that's the reason why these two guys were at the top. But I do think C.J. Stroud, with his size, his height, to be as accurate as he's been, the fact that he showcased his mobility against one of the best defenses in all of college football in that national semifinal against Georgia, I think that says a lot. As for Will Levis and Anthony Richardson, they just, there's just times where they disappear in games. We've watched Will Levis yesterday in particular go from, I think, plus 5,000 to plus 500 because somebody, posted something on Reddit here at PointsBet, and the shift has gone crazy. So I know there's a lot of people that got him at plus 5,000. If for some reason this has any bit of truth in it, people are going to be pretty darn happy when it's all said and done. But yeah, to your point, C.J. Stroud certainly one of, if not the most accurate quarterbacks in this year's draft.
PointsBet's got a lot going on for the draft, do they not?
They do. They have a ton going on. It's a lot of fun. And this is all, the way the markets shift is unbelievable from day to day. Like just 2 weeks ago, C.J. Stroud was the favorite at the quarterback position, or as the number one overall pick. And now it's shifted so dramatically that just yesterday, I think Bryce Young was all the way up to minus 2,500. And now because of the Will Levis talk yesterday and the shift, the market has shifted. Now he's minus 1,250. So, clearly the front runner, but the ups and downs, if you were able to get a number at a good value and it hits, you could have a pretty darn good weekend. Maybe similarly good to the guys that are actually getting drafted.
How many quarterbacks go in the first round? What do you got with Hendon Hooker?
Yeah, I got 5 guys going in the first round. I got Seattle jumping up to 30, swapping with Philadelphia, who drops back to 37 and also takes their 50th in the second round. And the Seahawks go up and get Hendon Hooker to sit behind Geno Smith for a couple years, and hopefully for the Seahawks become their franchise player.
Do you like Hooker?
I do. I like him a lot. He was my 3rd ranked quarterback this year. I thought that he's first off, he's got a ton of experience, doesn't turn it over, 4 interceptions in the last 2 years. The win against Alabama, just go watch his poise in the pocket, utilization of those receivers against one of the better defenses, of course, in the SEC. I like him a lot. And it wouldn't surprise me if somebody jumps up higher to get him, to get that 5th-year option. The way my mock draft came out, I had him falling, which I think would be a good spot for him in Seattle. Seattle has a heck of a first round. They end up walking away kind of, I think, a similar draft to the New York Jets from a year ago. They get Jalen Carter, they get Quentin Johnston, and then they get Hendon Hooker in the first round. That would be a huge win for the Seahawks. Now they got to move some cap around. They only have about $7 million, and if they take Jalen Carter at that spot at 5, he's already at $6 million for that draft pick. So you'd have to find different ways to make it work, but I think they can.
Last thing, Chris Ballard, the GM here, said everybody's lying. Is everybody lying, or is everybody planting things, or both?
Well, I think that a plant is a lie a lot of the times, and I for telling people when we started doing this draft analysis when the Super Bowl ended, don't believe anything you hear from the end of the Super Bowl to Thursday night draft night. Don't believe a word. Either somebody's trying to create leverage or somebody's trying to diminish it. Do this, do that. People leaking what they want to leak. It's never done. I do think there's a pretty good chance that Bryce Young goes 1 overall. But I tell you what, in 2018, 1 day heading into the first round of the NFL draft, I don't think anybody out there saw Baker Mayfield going 1 overall. I think a lot of people saw Rosen as a possibility. Josh Allen was a pick, Lamar Jackson, and of course, Sam Darnold. But Baker Mayfield goes 1 overall. So could the Panthers have fallen in love with, let's say, Anthony Richardson or Will Levis? Maybe. That's why they hold it close to the vest, and we'll find out tomorrow night at 8 Eastern.
Thanks, my man. Thank you so much for coming on.
You bet. Good to see you, brother. Talk to you soon.
Man, Ryan Leaf, tremendous breakdown in that right there. PointsBet's a spot to go to. They've got everything you want. Because, I mean, it makes it more fun, right? You're sitting there, you're betting how many quarterbacks go. You're thinking Levis goes. You throw a few on that one. Next thing you know, your toes are tapping. You're getting fat, and away you go. I'm going to sit there tomorrow and probably do the same thing. Probably figure out where I am going. The straight line at PointsBet right there. You see it. And good. Thanks to our friends Dylan and Ryan and Aaron for getting Ryan Leaf on, because that's about as good as it gets. It is going to be so fascinating, at least from a Colts standpoint, to see what happens. Like if you're sitting here and a trade gets made at 3 and all of a sudden Levis and Young and Stroud are all gone, I think I'm going to sit here and go, what the hell? Are you really going to take Anthony Richardson? Are you really going to take a flyer on that with a general manager who is way below 500? He's in his 7th year, and it seems like the general manager and his staff needs to win now. And don't think for a second that doesn't factor in. Of course that factors in. When you have to win now, I don't think you necessarily take Anthony Richardson. Doesn't mean you don't. Hey, look, I don't care if you got to win now, tomorrow, the next day. If you think he's the guy, then you jump up and you take him and you don't even sweat it. You get him in town, you get him with receivers, you get him going, you figure it out, and away you go. But if you don't, this is where the word force it comes in. And I think our guy Ballard and a bunch of others have always talked about forcing it. Hey, you don't force it with a guy you don't really like. Yeah, like fans are going to be on my backside. I don't really want to hear it. We need a quarterback. Let's get someone in here. We got a 2nd-round grade on him. Let's take a swing. No. No, you can't do that. No, please, God, no. You only get somebody in there that you really like, period. If Anthony Richardson, who apparently can hit a ceiling with a ball, now I don't know why that's great. You know, I saw it the other day. He's throwing a football in his pro day, and he hits the ceiling, and everybody's like, oh, that's great. And my thought is, well, how about you hit the wide receiver? How about you're accurate enough to not hit the ceiling? Am I wrong about that? Is that just crazy, or does that just show arm strength? You know what I mean? Like, all right, I'm dropping back. Receiver's out. I can't throw it to him and not hit the ceiling? Okay. All right. Did you know the Baltimore Orioles had a 7-game win streak? It got snapped last night by the Boston Red Sox, but I didn't think the Baltimore Orioles won 7 games since 1974 when they had Cuellar and Dodson and Jim Palmer. I mean, what are we doing? Dave McNally? Well, I guess they've won 7 in a row. That to me is crazy. DD, are you having a draft party? No, I'm going to be in Boston. This is one of those weekends where my brother-in-law comes in and he goes fishing and he takes care of the dog. And then Lee and I are going to go for senior weekend at Harvard softball. So we're going to be out in Boston getting it done. You know what I'm saying? Just getting it done. It's what we do. We just get it done. Dan, this is from the Cash Man. Colts still aren't making the playoffs with a rookie quarterback, so is he getting another year with the Colts? The Colts are not a playoff team, regardless of this draft next year. Yeah, I agree. I would imagine, look, I'm telling you, there are winners, there are losers, and there are survivors. I have told you this for years. Is Chris Ballard anything other than a loser/survivor? But damn, that dude can survive. Because you're right. You draft a rookie this year, you're coming off 4-13, the whole debacle with Jeff Saturday, and you're going to get another year. You're going to get another couple years. DD, the Colts stinks. Yeah, they do. Yeah, they do, Sean. Oh, man. If you're a Colts fan, can you seriously handle Gardner Minshew as your quarterback? I want you to think about that for just a second. Now, I feel like Gardner Minshew is good for a win early. I do. But I don't feel like he's great for the quarterback for a very, very long. And by the way, good for Trae Young, no? How about Trae Young last night? 16 in the fourth quarter. He's got 60 in fourth quarters in this. There was a lot of talk about Trae Young being a bust. He couldn't play in the playoffs. That all went away. And this is what I've been talking about. Here's what I've been talking about, people. You know how I have said Ohtani and Trout, everybody tells me Trout's the best player in baseball? You know what you need? You need a postseason moment. You can't be considered the greatest or great or whatever if you don't have a postseason moment. I don't care whether it's basketball. I don't care whether it's baseball. I don't care the sport. You got to have one. Trae Young had it last night. There will be zero discussion on whether Trae Young is clutch after last night. That is forever ended, and good for him. He's a nice kid. The damn awards coming up next. No, it's not. What the hell Wednesday? You're not going to believe some of this crap. You are not going to believe. A dude covered his baby in $100 bills. Need I say more? We'll be right back. Stay right here. Tell your friends. Let's go.
Welcome into OutKick the show. I am Clay Travis, your fearless leader.
I am going to continue to argue that sports is one of the great unifying forces in all of American life.
ESPN is a sinking ship. Democrats are now the party of the white, woke college graduate.
We live in a land of participation trophies.
You gotta lean into the turns. You really gotta lean into the turns.
When Leah Thomas walked in that first day, it got silent, and every girl was uncomfortable.
Very difficult to go back-to-back years in the NFL with the #1 overall pick.
I've been out of LA long enough to have forgotten that libs, no matter how ridiculous the scenario, are gonna lib. Another week of inflation, another week with Biden with COVID, and another set of losers to crown. People don't watch the WNBA on TV, in person, on a plane, on a train, on a bus, or on purpose.
The scary thing, Tommy, is in the history of this government, I've never seen them give anything back that they've taken.
Oh no, they never do.
And they won't.
We've seen coaches throw water bottles. We've seen coaches act like idiots. We've seen coaches slap other coaches. But I think if you're involved in carjacking, you're inherently a rotten human being. The level of stupid that sometimes gets on our YouTube chat just gives me a headache. You're born a male, play with males. You're born a female, play with females. Don't at me about it, people.
I believe this person is the greatest player anybody alive will ever see. How can you hate Derek Jeter? A guy's on-base percentage tells me his batting eye, and a guy's slugging percentage tells me if he's a threat. That's the kind of guy that throws a no-hitter, that effectively wild guy.
Hey, welcome back. 9-0 run, whap. Next thing you know, Steve Ballmer and the boys from the Clippers were back in it, but Steve Ballmer and the boys without, of course, Kawhi Leonard, Paul George, they got beat. By the way, the YouTube chat is always bumping. I mean, it's insane the numbers we're getting on YouTube. Make sure you subscribe, make sure you like, ring the bell, get alerts. OutKick with Clay, Hot Mike with Chad and Jonathan. Tommy's show coming up is Charlie's show. I mean, it's spectacular here, what we are building at OutKick. And I got to thank, I'm leaning into the camera here with my big fat face. I got to thank all of you for your support over the years. You guys are fan-freaking-tastic. You really are. You guys are awesome, and I thank all of you. By the way, I had a great time. I gave my first political speech last night. True story. The Jay County Lincoln Day celebration got a standing O. I got sweaty. I got so into it. Many of the lawmakers were there from the northeast section of the state of Indiana. I may have to run for something. We may have to do the show one day from the Oval Office because this is just, I don't know. I'm too good. Hey, a grown man found out halfway through his 36-month car lease. Imagine if this happened to you. I want you to listen to this. 36-month car lease that he would not, in fact, own the car at the end. Where are we going? We're going to TikTok. It's where everybody goes. Let's hear from this guy.
Guess who's been paying off a car for 18 months of a 36-month lease and just found out what a car lease is? That is so much money to pay to rent a car for 36 months. Are you kidding me? Oh, how didn't you know? Didn't you read the contract? I did, and I didn't understand the contract. No, it's checking what I sign. They were like, here's your car. And I was like, yippee! The only thing getting me through those payments was the idea that I was going to own it at the end.
I mean, I hate to be this guy, but all you got to do is look at that guy and know he's a dipstick. I mean, look, sometimes you do own the car at the end. Sometimes you don't. I mean, all you got to do is ask, hey, do I own the car at the end? But all you got to do is look at the guy and you're like, yeah, there's no doubt. And I talk real here, right? I mean, some sales guy sees this, flighty, whatever this guy is, and you go, yeah, okay. And look at this clown. So it's somebody else's fault that he's not smart enough or he is not aware enough to say, hey, look, I'm going to pay this bad boy off. I'm talking to a car dealer right here now, right? I'm going to pay this bad boy off 36 months worth. Do I own the car at the end? Mr. Happy guy here isn't smart enough to do that. Buyer beware. You got what you deserve. Screw you. Yeah, I know that's a little bit harsh. Lee and I were talking about this morning. I hope this isn't a thing. But this is like the second or third time on flights, I believe to India, that people are peeing on each other. And actually not on each other. Passengers are now peeing on other passengers. Now, I don't know why somebody would do that. I don't know where this comes from. I don't know why. What would, I don't know, make you think this is a smart thing? But the head of India's Tata's Sons conglomeration has expressed anguish over an incident when a drunk man allegedly urinated on a female passenger. Air India is embarrassed by this. The incident took place last November, but it was only reported last week. For some reason, the woman decided to then tell people. The news led to massive outrage in India with criticism over how Air India handled the incident. The man, he got arrested. The man was listen to this, he got fired from his job in the United States with Wells Fargo. How about that? Air India chief executive, a guy named Campbell Wilson, expressed regret and pain over its customers suffering due to the condemnable acts of their co-passengers. It took place on the 26th of November, the business class cabin of a New York to Delhi flight. The guy, Shankar Mishra, was allegedly drunk when he urinated on one of his co-passengers, a 72-year-old woman, this guy. My clothes, shoes, and bags were completely soaked in urine. She asked for a change of seat, but was told that nothing was available and instead offered a small seat used by staff. She also alleged that the crew brought the man to her against her wishes so he could apologize. She describes the flight as the most traumatic of her life. I would think so. I would think that that would be an issue. There was a 30-day interim travel ban on the idiot. I don't know what to tell you. Finally, they decided that they were going to press charges. I don't know. The crew did not comply with its rules for handling an unruly passenger. It said the crew's conduct was unprofessional, and they de-rostered a pilot and 4 members of the cabin crew. There you go. Wells Fargo says they're cooperating. Look, there's no groping, there's no peeing, there's no nothing on a flight. I literally sit there like this, actually like this. I got my iPad and I watch, what's the word? I'm watching Beef. Watch Beef. Beef is a little freaky and I like it. So I went last week to New Jersey and I watched like 8 episodes of Beef. Ain't no wrong with Beef. Man, how about we just don't pee on others? How about we don't act like farm animals? We act like human beings. We use the restroom, or if we're out in the wilderness, we pee by a tree. But we don't need to pee anywhere else. You know those accordion folding sunshades on the dash? Well, it wasn't going to work for this guy. It simply was not going to work. Let me explain, shall I? You know, you put those things, look at this thing. A cow decided that it was going to sit on a car to keep the cow warm. The cow said, screw the accordion thing inside. And those things are very popular in Vegas. Whenever you go to Vegas, you see those everywhere because, well, it's 6,725 degrees. I missed one of ours. We'll get back to it in a second. But that's what we got here. We got a doctor smears car dung on his car because it thinks it's going to keep his car cool. This is also in India. A man coated his car with car dung to get relief from the heat. Sushi Sager, a homeopathic doctor, claims that applying car dung in a way to maintain the normal is a way to maintain the normal temperature of his car. Car dung is heat resistant and does not let heat come into the car. He's a pro. He didn't put any on his door handles. He just spread the manure on the car windows. And guess what? He's a visionary. Not many of us can think about that. Not many of us have that ability. Hey, let's check out a video of a dad covering his kid in $100 bills. That's right. He makes it rain, this guy does, on his child. Let's have a look. That's a lot of hundos. I'm looking right there at about 4, 8. I mean, how many hundos we got? I mean, he's got a stack full of hundos. Good for the baby. I mean, yay, look, whatever, man. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. There's not a damn thing wrong with that. Good for him, man. Cover the kid in hundos. You know, in Ohio, they give every newborn like a little football. I think, or at least in Massillon, Ohio, they used to do that. I don't know if they do that everywhere in Ohio. But you would get a little football, right? And you would be like, hey, you're a little football player. You're a little Buckeye. I think it's pretty smart. I think Massillon did it in Ohio for their high school, like the Massillon whatevers, that kind of thing. But good for him, man. And it's a girl. It's a girl. How about that? We're going to start her life by covering her in money. Look, whenever I go to Vegas, and I remember doing this the first time, and now I just do it, sometimes in casinos they have girls dancing, not strippers, but girls, basically pole dancing on the bar with a pole, and I always take a picture and tell my daughter, hey, look, stay off the pole. When she was in college, I would tell her, stay in school. You don't need to be on the pole. I'm not saying that pole dancing is bad. I just didn't want it for my daughter. You may want it for your daughter. Hell, I didn't want my daughter to be a cart girl at a golf course because I know what pigs guys are. So there you go. The dude covered his daughter with the cash because, well, maybe he wants her on the pole. I do not. I don't. All right. A school in Michigan where Gretchen Whitmer reigned supreme, a middle school prohibited students from wearing sweatshirts that don the phrase, "Let's go Brandon," Tri-County Middle School. Some students have filed suit. They filed a lawsuit over an edict citing viewpoint discrimination. They're saying, hey, we just got a viewpoint. That's all. This is our point of view. The Foundation for Individual Rights and Expression, also known as FAUCI, self-described as a nonpartisan nonprofit organization dedicated to defending and sustaining the individual rights of all Americans to free speech and free thought, are representing the Tri-County Middle School students who sued the school district Tuesday for viewpoint discrimination after they were forced to remove sweatshirts they wore to school that featured the phrase, "Let's go Brandon." According to FAUCI, an assistant principal and a teacher ordered the boys to remove their "Let's go Brandon" sweatshirts. The slogan, according to the school, violated the school's dress code, but at the same time, they have allowed students, and you knew this was coming, to wear gay pride things apparel. The district may defend barring the phrase on the basis that it prohibits the F word from the dress code, and "Let's go Brandon" is a humorous substitute for F Joe Biden. Fire attorney says that would not hold up in court. That would not. All right. The slogan is this is a way to express anti-Biden messages without using profanity. Look, we all know you can do let's gay this, let's transgender this. You can do anything you want with that because the alphabet is absolutely on fire and makes everybody nervous because you can't go against gay pride, gay marriage, gay this, gay that, trans this, trans that, trans up, trans down, trans in, trans out, trans my ass. You can't go against it. And if you go against it, then you're phobic or ist or ick or some kind of word, but certainly going against our president by saying, "Let's go Brandon." I do think the FJB would probably get you kicked out, but that's not what those girls or boys in that school did. They didn't do it. So there you go. All right. This seems like a woke conversation right here. So it leads me right into woke-a-dope, baby. What do you guys got today? What do you got, Dylan? Yeah, I saw this. Just read that for just a second. I feed my daughter crickets for protein. It saves hundreds on grocery bills. Look, that's an indictment of Joe Biden. We are now a third world country. We can no longer afford to go to the grocery store. Think about that for just a second. We have to feed our children, or at least some people feel the need to feed their children crickets. Now, this isn't Papillon, the movie where Dustin Hoffman, I think it was Dustin Hoffman, maybe it was De Niro, I don't know, one of those guys, maybe it was Pacino, ate freaking bugs in a jail cell. I think it was Pacino. This isn't Papillon, for crying out loud. This is the United States of America. And in Joe Biden's finish the job, what does he want? All of us? Do we all have to eat crickets? Must we eat crickets? Must we eat animals, insects, bugs dung as opposed to go to the store because everything's so freaking expensive under these clowns? Is that what you want out of us? Tell me, please. Tell me, please. Daniel Owen says people in the United States have officially lost all of our marbles. This is an actual thing that people are doing. And it's not because they want protein. Of course, it's because, as Charlie Arnold just told us, it's too freaking expensive. The world is too expensive because this idiot we have in office is trying desperately to maintain his power, and he doesn't care about us. And somehow, some way, we are all, ladies and gentlemen, that was Dustin Hoffman, we are all going to vote for this idiot again. It's unbelievable. And I'm with Who's Your Daddy? This is simply child abuse. There's no other way around it. This is, if you feed your child insects, that's child abuse. Period. And I don't think I'm stretching it. I didn't. Dan, I did watch a cooking show on Food Network, listen to this, where someone used crickets to cook a dish. And the judge liked it. What, we fish? Don't you fish with crickets? Hey, you got worms, you got crickets, you got spinnerbait, you got whatever. All right. I'm wrong, and I know I'm wrong. I got no problem being wrong. What else you got? Unbelievable. World is insane. Yeah. Show me a school that I shut down. I'll just stop. Just stop. You know what I'm saying? Just stop. I mean, you wanted school shut down. You wanted everything shut down. You know, I guess it's semantics. You didn't walk into Andrean High School and say shut it down. But you were the guy that everybody listened to. You were the guy that everybody said, all right, what's Fauci do? And I blame Trump. Now, Trump didn't hire this guy. This guy was hired a long time ago as the foremost infectious doctor, or whatever the hell he is. But we all listened to him. We all saw the daily updates. We all listened to him speak on a daily basis. And next thing you know, we all shut everything down. We did. So the bottom line is simple. You either stand by your word or you don't. And Fauci, he's just another example of what the libbies are doing to us. They say things, they do things, their actions are one thing, and then they tell us something completely different. Show me a school that I shut down and show me a factory that I shut down. Never, never. I gave public health recommendation that echoed the CDC's recommendation. People made a decision based on that, but I never criticized the people who had to make the decisions based on that. All right. Look, I don't know. Fauci said so much. Fauci went into so much over the years. Yes, we are supposed to shut down. Yes, we are supposed to wear masks. Yes, we are supposed to do this or that. And people listen. And now he says something clearly went wrong, and I don't know what it was, but the reason we know it went wrong is that we are the richest country in the world, and on a per capita basis, we've done worse than virtually any other country. There's no reason that blah, 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 blah. Could we have done better? Of course, of course. If you knew many of the things that we know now, definitely we could have done better. Well, I mean, the bottom line for all of this is you lost public trust. And I was talking to Lee, and I'm curious your thoughts about this. Wouldn't you just like to really know what's going on? Like, why was it racist to call it the China flu? I mean, it was from frickin' China. Anybody that doesn't think it was from China is out of their frickin' mind. I mean, why is that racist? I don't get it. Why was it racist for Donald Trump to say, hey, look, anyone traveling in from China is banned from traveling into the United States. Why is that racist? Why were all of these things so racist? Why were they all so vilified when the people that are supposed to know the most made the recommendations? Trump was supposed to know the most. He's the president. He deals with these guys. He said shut down traveling from China. The flu came from China. But Fauci and others apparently have a lot of money in this. They don't want to blank China off. Why? Because all of our corporations make their stuff where? In China. Why? Cheap labor. I told you this from the get-go. Cheap labor is the reason we are beholden to China. Cheap labor is the reason we don't want to piss off China. Cheap labor is the reason you saw so many people come at Trump when he said it was the China flu. It came from Wuhan. It came from China. Apparently, everybody and their mother knew this. But to call it that blanked the proletariat, the bourgeoisie off. They didn't want it, so they put it out through their friends in the media that if you called it that, you were racist. I mean, damn. So now we're giving Fauci a break by saying, well, he knew more. He just told you the recommendations and you made your own choice. Why doesn't Trump get the same break? Why didn't Trump get the same break in terms of it not all of a sudden being called racist so quickly? We're full of crap. And the bottom line is simple. Everything we do relative to China, and you could probably go back through history, every conflict or every nation that we're protecting, we protected because of cheap labor. I mean, let's be honest here. Nike makes its stuff in China. Apple has never made a phone. I want you to think about this. Apple has never made a phone outside of where? Say it with me, China. Why? Say it with me, cheap labor. Period. Cheap labor means what? Bigger profits. If you spend more on labor, your profit margin is less. If you spend less on labor, your profit margin is more. It ain't that hard. Why do you think Biden is so beholden? Why do you think Nike is so beholden? Apple, all these companies, the NBA, because cheap labor. The NBA gets millions because of how popular it is over there. This isn't hard to figure. It isn't. I'm sorry. We can argue anything else you want, but every single deal comes back to one singular thing. Cheap effing labor. Period. That's it. Man, oh man. Anyway, there's our show for today. Spectacular. Absolutely spectacular. Brian Leaf could not have been better. Charlie Arnold, fantastic. It is Wednesday. It is what? Hump Day! All my friends that are on the YouTube chat, thank you. If you watched us on Twitter, please share our show. We'd like to get that Twitter up. We always are going to say that no matter what. But the YouTube, we are, ladies and gentlemen, the fastest growing show on YouTube. This show is taking off on YouTube. And it's not only our show, it's our shorts, it's our videos. And I thank all of you that show up every day. I actually beat you, some of you guys there today. So like, subscribe, and ring the daggone bell, will you please? Because we are rolling every Monday through Friday right here on the OutKick network, which within a year will take over the entire country. You are welcome, country. See you tomorrow.